It's funny because we've taken a lot of Native American surfing, and they've all said kind of, well, not exactly the same, but similar statements where they're saying it's like counting Koo with, with surfing. And counting Koo was a Native American ritual, which essentially meant testing your mettle against nature itself. For instance, counting Koo with a buffalo was like, riding right up to the buffalo and then touching it instead of killing it, like tapping it, teasing it, this 2,000-pound beast that could easly, crush you. So counting Koo was an act of fearlessness that showed your melding with nature, to test your mettle. And I think surfing has that kind of element to it too. I mean, at least in my lifetime, I've seen that. I've learned my limits. I mean, really learned my limits. Like I know what I don't want to do anymore.
Any story you want to share there of how you've learned?
Well, I mean, the story is probably the North Shore of Hawaii, and growing up as a kid, in Hawaii, I knew how scary and mean the North Shore was. I developed a little bit of comfort at like Little Waimea and Little Pipeline and places like that. But I was out on a day at sunset with Herbie Fletcher and some of the old legends that were out there, Peter Cole and some guys, and I was riding a board I borrowed from Herbie that would have caught any of the waves that day, 8-something gun Bill Barnesville made, and this wave came, this West Peak popped up, and I remember Herb and some of the guys going, "Fuck man, it's coming right to you," which you don't want to hear when you see this wave, this giant forming in front of you, and I was like, fuck. Oh, it's okay, you can have it if you want. It's I mean, do you want it? You can have it. I mean, and everyone's like, go, go, go. And I turned around and I paddled into it. And Sunset is a peak, so when you take off and you start to kind of fade into it, you can see it almost looks like a mush ball. Like you can make this easy, So you actually stagger your drop by going the opposite way a little first. There were guys like Barry Kaniapuni who were great at that. And I kind of saw that in my brain as I turned off the bottom, and much to my chagrin, it just rocketed up and down the line. And it's a large almond-shaped wave, so when you get down below it, there is no kicking out. It's too critical above you. There's no shooting your board over the top or anything. And it's hard to straighten out because the wave reaches out so far. It's not like a wave that goes down like that. It reaches out to get you. So I did what I could do, which was freeze and turn into the barrel and just stay there. And I remember it just got darker and darker and darker, and finally got to that point where, like Phil Edwards says, no one gets knocked off waves. You jump at the last second. You jump. And I did. And I hit the bottom of the wave, and it pushed me down. And I remember kind of just the washing machine effect, and looked up, and I was so deep underwater. I had never had that experience being so deep, because Sunset is quite a deep wave, and in the bowl there, in front of Val's Reef, it's quite deep where the waves actually break. And I fought so hard because I was so afraid I was too deep to get up. I started losing it, and really, you can't fight immediately when you wipe out on a wave. You have to let it kind of take you on a ride first. There is no opposing this wild ferocity of nature. You've got to take the ride, and then when it starts to settle down a little and you can make a little headway, then you swim for the surface or whatever. But you can't just immediately oppose the wipeout. You have to go with it, which I didn't because I was scared. And then at a certain point, as I'm struggling, I see this something below me, and I stopped in my struggling quite deep underwater in this expanse of blue, and I look down and I see this guy below me that's in a full dog paddle panic underwater, blowing bubbles, kicking and just doing the full scared dog panic paddle, quite deep. And I was worried about myself, and I looked down and I see this guy, and I was like, that guy's dead. That guy is in a, whoa, I don't know if I can help it. I mean, the thought of swimming down to him occurred to me, but I was like, I'm at my wit's end at this point. And then I looked at the guy, And I went, oh my God, and he's wearing the same singlet as me. He's wearing the same rash guard as me. And trunks. And just then, as I realized that, I went into the body of that guy, fully just, and I realized, what the hell am I doing? And I just went slack, like the Church of Bob. I just went slack, and I let the wave kind of get me back a little bit more to, like the rumbling kind of stopping, and then I just powered for the surface. And by the time I got to the surface, I was wrecked. I had inhaled water. I was puking. I was coughing, and I just struggled and made my board. I don't know where it was, in Cami Land somewhere, and I rolled up on Val's Reef and crawled up the beach and just laid there for like hours. I mean, it was awful. It was like drowning, really. It was hell. It was hell. And I knew, I mean, triple overhead, Hawaiian 10-foot waves, or even a little less than that, that's my limit. I mean, Port Escondido and some places I've gone out in big surf, you can die doing it. It's crazy. I see these guys doing this stuff nowadays, and they got inflatable vests and things like that, but I wouldn't even want to do it like that. I mean, that's the next level. That's like counting Koo with nature. That's for the young man.